Hello and welcome to ProtoBalls Talk Podcast. I'm ProtoMet.
This is ProtoBalls. Today, we're going to find God. Wait.
Kinda. Today we'll be covering Star Trek V, The Final Frontier.
What an not so apt, name, I suppose, for the movie. Okay. Little background check. Star Trek V, Final Frontier. Leonard Nimoy's not the director in this.
Nope, it's William Shatner.
William Shatner in his directorial debut. And what a debut. Oh my god. So, released in 1989. That's really all you need to know. I don't... Yeah. So, I honestly don't have any good things to say about this film other than a few select things. So, instead of wasting time with the whole background to the movie, I can talk about that afterwards. So, let's just get into the movie.
So we arrive on the planet, what was it?
Hold on.
Something 3.
Nimbus 3?
Nimbus 3.
Yes.
A desert planet. That is apparently a neutral territory in the neutral zone. It is considered the planet of peace. It has the nickname of it. It is not exactly a very pleasant place to live, just for the vast amounts of deserts. But there is like one city on the entire planet called Paradise City, which I'm not gonna lie. When I first heard that that's what it was called, it was like I just thought of the Guns N' Roses song.
Yeah.
It's like that's what immediately came to my mind.
So we meet this man
In the desert, digging up holes.
and we never learn his name.
Ever
Throughout the entire movie.
And he's actually a pretty prominent recurring character. Somehow.
So, God, who's the name? I am going to call him, what's his face from The Hills Have Eyes?
Jonathan Barry?
Yes, John Barry. I'm going to call him John Barry.
He does kind of look like...
He looks very similar, but not as...
Not as tall.
And not with the not with the disease. He's just bald. Sorry, John Barry, I love you.
Yeah.
You're a very good actor. But, I mean, it's an apt description.
Yeah. So, he's in the desert, digging up holes when a dude on... I think a horse or something?
Something. On an animal.
On an animal, just rides up. So the digger, John Barry, grabs his gun, air quotes, because this is the planet of peace, so they're not actually supposed to have weapons.
Yeah.
And it's actually explained shortly into the movie that despite the fact that they were forbidden guns, the people of the planet just improvise.
Yeah, they built their own guns. So they have a little conversation.
This dude, this hooded dude, comes up, has a conversation with John Barry. John Barry would much rather this guy just leave him to his digging his holes.
And then the guy is like, "You have pain hidden in your heart. Let me feel your pain." And the guy's like, "What? No, what? I'm not ready for this. Let me feel your pain." It all started when I was 6. Oh no. It's like a quick scene.
Yeah, we don't even find out what John Barry's pain is. They just have a brief conversation, and then like midway through it, John Barry just starts breaking down and kind of crying.
Yeah. It gets explained later in the movie.
And I'm not going to lie, I don't like this scene, but I don't like this scene within the context of later on in the movie. I think this scene is an okay scene on its own, but it's kind of like the ending for Friday the 13th. I don't feel that they should have gone with this as the opening scene.
So moving on, we cut to Yosemite National Park,
where Kirk is climbing a cliff with his bare hands.
So the backstory to this movie is that the new Enterprise from Star Trek IV, the new Enterprise that everybody got, performed very poorly in its test. So they're all on shore leave until the ship can be repaired.
I'm just operating under the assumption that they've just been traveling around for the last couple years.
It's just...
Well, I'm going to go with that assumption because the movie doesn't explicitly state it.
The movie doesn't explicitly state it, but apparently the plot is that, their first voyage went fucking terribly. So they're repairing the ship.
Well, I want to go with the whole adventuring.
Fine! Go with that! I don't care!
Because it helps to explain why Uhura has whitish hair.
Or it could be that she's just older.
Well, yeah, she's older, but...
I mean, Jesus Christ. She's like in her 50s at this point.
She is, yes. I'm just saying.
Anyways, so we're at Yosemite National Park, and
Kirk is climbing a cliff.
Kirk is
Kirk
is free climbing Yosemite Park.
And Bones is on the ground just watching it, complaining because they're supposed to be relaxing.
Bones starts talking to himself, and he's like, God, if I'm not careful, I might start talking to myself. Bones. I love you. So Spock talks to Kirk, and Kirk's like, go.
Wait, why is Spock talking to Kirk? Well, that's because Spock is wearing rocket boots.
Yeah, it's hand waved away.
Like, he just has rocket boots, so he just kind of jets up to have a quick chat with Kirk.
And Kirk is like, would you go away? I'm trying to free climb. And that's when the movie ends. No. Spock manages to save him in time. Yeah, Kirk slips and falls. Because he doesn't have a rappelling device to, save
because
him.
He's free climbing.
Because he's free climbing, like an idiot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but people who free climb, you people are idiots. You can be as brave as you want in these circumstances, but you're an idiot. That's asking for death. So, anyways, Bones is like, God damn it, motherfucker, why do you gotta do this? And Kirk's just like, it's for dinner.
So then it's night, I guess.
Well, no, it's not quite night yet. We cut back to Nimbus 3, and we're at the,
Paradise City.
Where
we have
where apparently it's the only colony on the entirety of Nimbus 3, which I'm immediately calling, what, is this Tatooine or something? What the fuck? Doesn't make any sense that there would be only one settlement on Nimbus 3. Unless, of course, it was a newly found colony.
And then we get, like, 3 random individuals, a Terran, a Klingon, and a Romulan, who all decide to just have a meeting for some reason.
Because, hey, they're on Nimbus 3, the planet of peace. Might as well hang out and be friends. They're ambassadors for they're ambassadors for
their respective planets.
Yeah, for their respective empires. The Romulan Star Empire, the Klingon Empire, and the
like the way the scene is framed, it seems like the 3 are meeting up to conspire over something. No. But that doesn't happen at all.
The Romulan has just been stationed on the planet. She's new to the planet.
Oh.
So the other 2 are like, oh, hi, welcome. And then shit goes south.
Because then people start attacking and invading the colony, being led by the hooded man from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. So then we cut back to
the Enterprise, where they get a message.
Well, no! We get a little short scene that's amazing. But we get a short scene with Sulu and Chekhov.
just lost in the woods.
Lost in the woods, and
they get a call from the Enterprise, and they claim that they're in the middle of a blizzard.
And it's like, yo, it's 72 and sunny where you are.
Uhura says that.
I'm sorry, we're breaking up.
72 and sunny there.
Oh.
It's a miracle!
Look, Suna, it's a miracle. I love Chekhov, Jesus. The last two movies have been a blast with him. He he started getting really good in Wrath of Khan, and he has just gone up. He has gone from a very good character to legendary in the span of about 3 movies, and I love it. And he gets better. He gets better in the next movie. He's so good. Oh, I love Chekhov. Chekhov's the best character. So then we cut tonight at Yosemite, and it's Kirk,
Spock, and McCoy just kind of sitting around a campfire.
And
Spock breaks out the marshmallows.
Yep.
Kirk and McCoy are gonna start singing row your boat, and Spock has no clue what they're doing.
Spock is like, I'm trying to analyze the meaning of the words, and Bones has the line of the movie, I liked him better when he was dead. I liked him better before he was dead. Oh God, these two, it's a total love-hate relationship. So then they get a call from Uhura, and it's like
basically the Enterprise has been taken off shore leave to they get brought up
to address the situation on Nimbus 3.
They get brought up on one of the shuttles because it is explained that the teleporters are not working properly, which actually is it's handled pretty well throughout this movie. So
it's a major plot point.
Yes.
It's not like the motion picture where people die from it or anything, but no, it's a pretty important plot point.
Yeah, so they get back up to the ship. They answer the call from the Federation guy.
Yep.
Who calls them. Kirk is like half dressed because they were on shore leave until then, and the guy explains the situation, tells that on Nimbus 3.
And Kirk is exasperated. He's like, Nimbus 3, the planet of peace? Yeah. Some terrorists took it over. We want you to check out the situation and handle it from here. And he's like, okay. No problem. Couldn't have waited until after shore leave.
Ambassadors, you know?
Yeah, ambassadors.
So then
we cut out into the middle of space. Middle of space, there's a probe that we're following.
Oh, right. I think it's one of the Voyager ones, if I'm recalling correctly.
Yeah, it's one of the Voyager ships.
It's not Voyager, it's a different Voyager.
Yeah.
It's the one with the golden disc. I remember that because that was actually a plot point in the Beast Wars cartoon.
So we're met with a Klingon bird of prey that decloaks, and we're met by one of the...
They just shoot down the...
We're met with one of the most vainglorious Klingon warriors, Captain Claw, who's just bored. He's bored.
It's spelled Klaa, not
yes.
Claw.
Yeah.
Pronounced the same, though.
Yeah, Captain Claw. And he's bored.
He's just bored.
He wants to fight something.
This is the villain of the movie.
Kind of, yeah.
I would say that the hooded guy was the villain of the movie, but it's made very obvious by the opening scene that he's probably not actually a bad guy.
Yeah.
Which is kind of part of the reason why I don't like the opening scene.
But anyway, so Claw's bored, and they're like, Nimbus 3, it's a planet under attack. There's a Klingon ambassador that's under hostage there. And he's like, that means there'll be a Federation ship there. Let's go! That's his motivation for the entire movie.
I mean, his motivation gets a little better, but considering this is the impetus of his motivation, it's dumb. And I love it. See, there are villains like V'ger,
who's not really a villain, but is here to seek the truth. There's Khan, who is so obsessed with revenge and wrath and vengeance that it overtakes his entire being.
Then we've got Christopher Lloyd from the third movie.
Christopher Lloyd from the third movie, and his whole deal is, well, the Federation's developing a potential weapon of mass destruction. We better capture it before they do.
And then we have Claw. I just want to get into a fight. I just want to fight somebody.
Say what you will. That's a goddamn good motivation to me.
I've seen worse motivations for becoming a major villain.
So the ship makes it.
Starts heading to Nimbus 3
Yes.
to intercept the Federation ship.
And they make it there. These first few scenes are very quick because there's not really much to note.
Yeah, it does kind of move at a pretty decent pace.
So they make it there, and they can't teleport down, so they have to actually go by hovercraft.
Well, I think they no. What happens first is they receive the message from the
guy
from the army from the army that attacked.
Yes.
Paradise City.
They received a message from the guy who...
They see that the ambassadors are safe, and Spock thinks he recognizes one of the people in the army.
Yeah, and it's a very good scene. Kirk says, "Spock, you look like you've seen a ghost." I may have. That's ominous.
It gets explained.
It gets explained.
So what happens is Kirk and some other people, including Spock, take a shuttlecraft down.
And they park it in a tactically sound position that's too far away. They
leave Chekhov to pretend to be the captain and attempt to negotiate with the leader of this terrorist armor.
Chekhov's great. Oh my god.
He actually does a pretty fantastic job of bluffing.
So they need a way to get there faster. So they spot an outpost with horses, and
so they tempt the people that are stationed at this outpost into the desert, luring them with erotic dance from Uhura, who's in her 50s.
Tempting is such
fan dancing.
Once again, tempting is a tenuous word in this situation.
Hey, she is a sexy woman.
She is a sexy woman in her 20s and 30s, not in her 50s.
I would argue differently.
I'm sorry. I love Nichelle Nichols, but I do not want to see naked 50-year-old Nichelle Nichols. I'm sorry.
Well, you might be alone on that front.
I'm moving on.
So yeah, they managed to secure the horses or whatever.
No, the reaction is the best because they get up to Uhura and they're like right underneath her, and then Kirk and everybody pops out, and they're just
like, "Hey, we're stealing your shit."
And their reaction's the best. They're just like, "Oh shit."
So,
I love this movie, but goddamn is it stupid.
So Kirk and the others managed to sneak into Paradise City, but they are almost immediately caught.
Not even immediately. It's like not even 5 seconds after they enter. They're like, "Hey, where are you guys going?" "Oh shit."
They all get into a fight.
People get shot. Shit happens.
You forgot the Catwoman.
No, I was getting there.
So she showed up earlier.
Oh yeah, the Catwoman. Oh my god,
the cat stripper.
There's a cat stripper with 3 breasts. There. Are you happy now? Oh my. This comes back.
Yeah, this happens earlier in the movie when the 3 ambassadors are having a meeting.
There's just a cat. Why? Because Because William Shatner wanted something to...
A Catwoman with 3 tits. And no, they're not bare tits. She's wearing a top.
Yeah, what do you think this is? Total Recall?
So anyway...
That might be what that's from. That might be just a reference to Total Recall.
Could be. I don't recall when that movie came out.
Hold on.
But,
give me a second here. Keep talking.
But then, during the fight, Kirk gets into a fight with a Catwoman, which kind of comes out of nowhere because it's like, wait, what?
Oh no! Total Recall came out the year after.
Well, now we know where the inspiration came from.
Oh my god! So, for reference, there is a person with 4 tits in Total Recall. It's either 3 or 4 tits.
I'm pretty sure it was 3.
And they're bare. So,
Anyway, moving on.
Thanks, Shatner.
So anyway,
oh my god.
Kirk and Spock do manage to get to the ambassadors.
And they pointed guns at them.
Yeah, it kind of comes out of nowhere. They came.
It's a good twist. It's a good twist.
It is a very good twist. They came to rescue the ambassadors, and the ambassadors are working with the terrorist army willingly. Comes as quite a shock.
So then they're taken to the leader, and Kirk and
Spock does indeed recognize the leader.
And the reveal is great. It's like, also, we should mention that the leader is a Vulcan.
Yeah, that was also established in the opening scene. Forgot to mention that.
I think we kind of... Well, we forgot to mention that. I was sort of leaving that anonymous when you didn't mention it. But no, he's a Vulcan, and he recognizes Spock, too. He's like, Spock, it's me! Cybok! There we get...
That's right, Noob Cybot!
Noob Cybot, back from the dead! So his name is Cybok, and so they get into it. They start talking, and basically they take control of the shuttle, the hovercraft,
to get back up to the ship because Cybok really needs his starship for some reason. He hasn't explained why yet.
Yes. So, anyways, as they're taking the hovercraft in space...
The shuttlecraft, actually.
Yeah, the shuttlecraft. The hovercraft, shuttlecraft. It's
nebulous. They're distinct.
It's a nebula. It's nebulous. It's whatever.
Anyway, they're heading back up to the
They're heading
Enterprise,
back up, but then...
the bird of prey shows up and decloaks.
Well, yeah, the bird of prey shows up, and Claw is like, "Oh, Enterprise! Captain Kirk! This'll be a..." It's like that meme. Finally, a worthy opponent. Our battle will be legendary.
I'm laughing for reasons that I will explain in a little while.
But so the Enterprise is stuck in between a rock and a hard place. They have to lower the shields in order to get the shuttlecraft in. But the problem is, if they lower the shields, they're vulnerable and they can't use the tractor beam. So Kirk
actually at one point attempts to convince Cybok to not to just like divert and just kind of wait it out a bit. And Cybok's like, "No, we have to do this like now.
We've got to do it." So then Kirk is like, "All right, Plan B." What's Plan B?
Like, nobody knows what Plan B is, because he just came up with it on the spot.
Yeah.
And the Plan B is to quickly have the Enterprise lower the shields so quickly, just shoot the shuttlecraft just before the Enterprise can get its shields back up, and just kind of wing the landing back on the ship.
So we've got about 2 or 3 minutes. I'm gonna explain the shuttlecraft process for you step by step. So when the shuttlecraft is coming into the ship, usually what the ship does is they lower the shields and they use a tractor beam to bring the ship in smoothly and safely. Not in this case. In this case, they're gonna forego the tractor beam. They're gonna lower the shields as quick as they can, and they are going to ram that fucking shuttlecraft right through as fast as they can. And you know what?
It works! I mean, technically it's a crash landing, but it works! Everybody survives!
Yep. So everybody survives, but everybody's thrown around, and Kirk and Cybok get into a fight, and Kirk gets his ass handed to him because Cybok's a Vulcan, and Vulcans are like 3 times as strong as a human. But then Spock grabs a gun and threatens to shoot Cybok, and Cybok knows
that Spock won't shoot.
Yes, he knows.
He basically calls Spock's bluff, essentially.
And just pisses off Kirk. And so what they're saying, so they send Kirk and Bowens off to the brig.
And Cybok is actually kind of convinced that Spock is joining his side at this point. But Spock still decides to stick with the captain.
Yeah.
And he admits some responsibility for not shooting Cybok when Kirk told him to. So
they're sent in. So then Uhura and Sulu are brought to Cybok, and they're gonna talk. Anyway, and then
it should be mentioned that at this point in the movie, none of the rest of the crew of the Enterprise are aware of the situation aboard the shuttlecraft, and it's
except for Scotty. Scotty sees the whole thing go down, and he just casually slinks away. He watches from one of the upper deck windows, and he just backs off slowly and.
It just kind of goes into hiding for a little bit.
Goes into hiding.
This will be important later on. So Kirk.
So then.
Kirk McCoy.
Meanwhile, Claw is getting ready to shoot. As soon as the shuttlecraft gets through, they go into hyperspeed.
They go to warp speed.
Yeah. And Claw's just like, I could maneuver. Completely unaware of the situation.
And completely unaware that Kirk had had no connection to.
That was actually Chekhov that made the call.
I know.
Which shows his captaining capabilities under pressure. Oh, so on the bridge. On the bridge, there's a funny little scene with Cybok and Chekhov, and he's like...
But hold up. First they take Kirk, Spock, and McCoy to the brig, and then they head up to the...
Right. So they head up to the bridge, and Chekhov is like, what's the meaning of this? I'm sorry, Captain. Oh, I get it, Captain. Cybok had...
No, I think he figures it out down on
He figures it out down on the planet, but he has a little jab at Chekhov.
Yeah.
He's just like...
Oh, the moment that he's like, wait, but I thought I get it.
Well played. Well played indeed.
Okay, good one.
Good one.
Cybok is a surprisingly jovial character for who we're supposed to believe is the villain.
He's also a Vulcan.
Of course.
Which means he shouldn't be showing emotion, but here he is just really gay and happy.
It's at about this point, at some point, Spock did start to explain Cybok a bit and explain what his whole deal is. And then in the brig, Kirk is basically laying into Spock for not shooting him. And then Spock decides to drop the bomb and reveal that Cybok is his brother. Well, half brother, but
so yeah.
That's okay.
And you know what? It's one of those twists in the movie that I have mixed feelings on it.
I think it's an interesting twist.
I'm not saying it's not interesting. I have mixed feelings on it, though. On one hand, it's an interesting dynamic between the two, that Cybok is the complete opposite of Spock in almost every sense, in almost every way. But on the other hand, there were more interesting ways to do this twist.
Some other stuff happens, but ultimately, I think Scotty shows up and
and so they're trying to escape and they can't because it's escape proof because they tested it on a certain person with pointed ears.
It's heavily implied to be Spock.
So then they hear some tapping on the wall, and it's Morse code. S T A N D. Stop. New word. B A C K. And sentence. Stand back.
Boom!
What are you all standing around for? Don't you know a jailbreak when you see one?
Fucking Scotty. Oh, so then they're making their escapes in the tubes of the internals of the ship.
And they split off.
They split off. Kirk, McCoy, and Spock go one way. Well,
they're trying to get to Kirk's room.
And Scotty goes another way to try and help work on fixing
the transporter.
And as they split off, Scotty's like, "Don't worry, I know this place like the back of my hand." Punk!
Actually hurt. And knocks himself out. He hits his head on a
low hanging portion of the ceiling. That actually hurt.
Don't hit yourself.
Too late.
Yeah, he knocks himself out, and everybody sees that. Oh, they escaped, so we gotta go find them.
And they of course find the knocked out Scotty just laying there.
So they're trying to climb up the.
Kirk and McCoy are trying to climb up.
And Spock wanders off again as he tells.
I think it's like some sort of elevator shaft thing.
It's a shaft to climb to get to the other decks. But they're climbing up, and Spock goes off in a different direction, and he gets the hover boots that he had.
Yeah, those come back. So they weren't just a throwaway gag from the beginning of the movie.
And they're getting chased, and they fly up, and they almost hit the ceiling, but they're okay.
No, what happens is Spock comes down with the rocket boot.
Right.
Grabs Kirk, gets Kirk. They get McCoy, and they just start sinking.
They start descending
because there's not enough thrust in the rocket boots for 3 people at once.
Yeah.
So then Kirk is like, just punch it. Just put those rocket boots into burst.
And there's a few problems with this particular scene, but it's really nitpicking.
Yeah. I think they pass a couple of floors out of orbit.
That's fine.
But they shoot up, and they do manage to avoid crashing into the ceiling.
Yeah, they almost hit the ceiling, but they're okay. And they make it. They make it to Kirk's room where they call for help. And then Cybok comes in. And
No. What happens is they go to call for help, and they think they get in contact with the Federation ship, but it's actually the bird of prey.
Oh. Yeah, that's true. They get the bird of prey.
The female Klingon who's second in command or whatever, she pretends to be a Federation officer receiving the call. So
yeah. And Claw's just like, easy pickings, baby. Easy pickings. This man's not going to be bored anymore. I'll be known as the man who killed Kirk.
But then Cybok shows up.
And it's here that we get probably the best film in the entire movie.
The best film in the entire movie. The best scene in the entire movie.
No, it's the best film in the entire movie if you separate it, make it a short film.
So
it's a bit of a long game.
At this point, Kirk and the others are like half convinced that Cybok has been brainwashing people because among the people who were trying to capture Kirk after their escape was Sulu.
Yeah.
And Uhura is not even now willingly working for Cybok.
So here's the thing. It's here, an hour and 20 minutes into the movie, that we finally know.
But first we actually get a half-assed explanation for what Cybok's whole deal.
Cybok wants to go to the center of the galaxy. That's really it. The Great Barrier, they say. No ship or probe has ever gone in or come back. So that's the whole deal. His whole deal is he wants to find Shakari, which is the Vulcan word for
Heaven?
heaven, Eden, whatever. He wants to find... An hour and 20 minutes into the movie, we finally get the point. He wants to look for God.
And Kirk is like... He's convinced that Cybok has brainwashed everybody into working for him. And then we actually get to see what the details behind how Cybok is able to convert people. And it's not so much brainwashing, but it also doesn't make any sense because it's never explained how he got this
So
power.
what's happening is he's mind melding with them.
Okay.
He's mind melding them to...
Somehow he's able to allow other people who are not part of the mind meld to see it because something...
William Shatner is not a man who makes very much sense in his story writing.
Speaking of not making much sense, how did Cybok get to Nimbus 3 in the first place? Like, was he one of the original colonists or what?
Probably.
That aspect is never explained, which kind of makes the whole question of, well, why does he need a starship seem all the more
See, the way I see it is he's originally a colonist there, and he's living out in exile because he's banned from Vulcan because of his teachings, because of his ideas. That's the whole reason that's the whole deal with him.
Yeah, you failed to explain that earlier. Sorry.
Yeah, he's banned from Vulcan because his ideal. He wants to get rid of logic and adopt emotion again. But so my theory is he's originally a colonist there living out in exile, and he gets a dream. Okay? An hour and 20 minutes into the movie, we're looking for God. He says he gets a dream, he gets a message from God to get a spaceship and go to the center of the galaxy. That's my theory, at least. He does mention he got a message.
Yeah, that part didn't get explained. I was just questioning how he got to Nimbus 3 in the first place.
I think he was already living there.
Yeah,
so.
it's just never explained in the movies. That's why I'm calling attention to it.
Yeah.
So.
Anyway, we get a great scene. He mind melds with Scotty.
And somehow Kirk and Spock are able to see it, I guess.
Hand wave it away.
Admittedly, while the scene is going on, I wasn't entirely certain if Kirk and Spock were seeing everything that was going on, or if they were just looking at the two people standing there. But basically, we get a bit of McCoy's backstory, where it's revealed that his father was suffering from a debilitating illness that there was no cure for, and he finally just pulled the plug on his dad to end the guy's suffering. And then, like, the very next year, the cure was found.
They found the cure a month later.
Oh, a month later. Oh, that's even worse.
So McCoy has lived with the guilt of killing his father.
And this revelation has kind of liberated him from that guilt. And Cybok has taken that pain into himself, and
it's weird.
But this is the explanation for how Cybok is able to convert people.
He's basically doing therapy.
Yeah, basically.
And it's a great scene, and there's a lot of, like Star Trek, like
Espion. Why do you keep wanting to fall over?
I don't know. Like most Star Trek movies, there's a lot of philosophy involved here. And then Cybok mind melds with Spock and shows him his deepest...
And it's at this point that it's revealed that, yes, Kirk is able to see what's all going on. Which is kind of why I'm calling it into question, but whatever. Moving on.
So Cybok reveals Spock's greatest pain himself, which is his birth.
His human side.
And essentially, Spock's greatest pain is never quite fitting in anywhere, or never having the luxury of ever fitting in,
and being a shame to his father, or some such.
A shame that his father never loved him, which
We'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
And
So then Cybok is like, Kirk.
He wants to turn to Kirk and help bring him over. But Kirk refuses to have this because he doesn't want to let go of the pain.
So Kirk's, and this is probably one of Kirk's greatest philosophical...
This is actually an excellent retort to the whole deal.
It's one of Kirk's greatest philosophical monologues. He says, the pain makes us who we are. Getting rid of that pain doesn't change anything. We are still who we are. I don't want to get rid of my pain. I need my pain. My pain allows me to survive.
And Cybok just lets him keep it.
And Cybok has no answer to that because you gotta respect that.
Yeah.
And so
this is the scene that reveals that Cybok isn't actually the villain of the movie.
No, he's not the villain of the movie.
Granted, the opening scene makes it clear.
He commits a lot of villainous acts, but he's more...
He's committing villainous acts for the sake of the greater good in his eyes.
He's probably an anti-villain. I think that would probably be the
I wouldn't even go that far. He views himself as a hero character, and not in the vain sort of way.
Right.
Like he just views himself as being this person who will guide these people to something better.
Yeah. He views himself as the next Jesus Christ to lead his people.
And this is kind of why I disliked the existence of the opening scene. I would have actually...
Have the floor.
I actually would have really liked it if they didn't include the scene where he converts the John Barry at the beginning of the movie. Because by doing that so early on in the movie, at the very beginning, it basically reveals that his army isn't being brainwashed. They're willingly helping him.
Yeah.
And it would have actually been a lot more intriguing to lead the audience to believe that he's brainwashing people. To believe that he's brainwashed Uhura and Sulu and Chekhov to working for him. And then have this scene reveal that they are honestly willingly joining his side because they believe what he's doing.
We also get a great scene after this. They make it to the Great Barrier and they're going up to the bridge, and Cybok. There's a great scene after this. Hold on. So Cybok is like, "Well, will you join me, Spock?" And Spock just says, "My place is as a Federation officer.
Even up to this very end, he is willing to arrest Cybok for his crimes."
And Spock, Bones McCoy, the one who is the most willing to go with Cybok, is even like, I'm going to have to back out on this one.
And the reason that Spock doesn't want to join Cybok is because, unbeknownst to Cybok at this point, Spock has actually already kind of come face to face with that pain of his human side, and
Cybok wouldn't have known.
Cybok was going off of his memory of Spock, and didn't realize that in the intervening years between when they last saw each other and now, stuff has happened.
Let's just put a checklist of what has all happened to Spock between the time that he last saw Cybok and now. He saw a machine become the next evolution of humanity. He died.
He sacrificed himself for his friends.
Yes.
He came back from the dead.
Came back from the dead. Went back in time. And finally, the most important out of all of them, aside from dying, got the acceptance of his father.
And, of course, Cybok would have never known this.
Yes.
So, this is a bit of a surprise to him, but Spock chooses to stick with Captain Kirk.
Yeah. So then there's a great scene afterwards. Scotty is in the med bay, and he wakes up, and Uhura is there caressing him. And she's like, "Oh, there's so much I've got to tell you." And he's just like, can I wait till later? Maybe? Scotty's great in this movie, even if he's only in a few scenes.
Like he's still gonna go fix stuff even after he's just recovered from being unconscious. And then Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Cybok come in the room, and they're not at Cybok's throat, and this confuses the heck out of Scotty.
Yeah, and he's like, What's going on here?"
So basically, they're going to go to the Great Barrier in the center of the galaxy.
And they go through it.
They just go through it. Like, for as much build-up as they basically were trying to have for the whole Great Barrier being this thing that nobody has been able to pass and it's a forbidden zone, they just go right through.
It's like a barrier of the week from the original Star Trek series. It's like, oh, nobody's gone through there. Watch me go through it. Look at that! I went through it. Now everybody can go through it.
You can't come over. It's like if a kid.
But you know what? This might actually make sense, and I'll explain it in a bit. Okay? If once I explain it, you might also agree with it.
Okay, but
so they go through it,
and that is an incredibly underwhelming achievement.
Yeah. And they find a planet in the middle of it all.
And they go. And Spock, McCoy, and Kirk, Spock, McCoy, and Cybok take a shuttle down, and I think the bird of prey is still on its way there.
Yeah, the bird of prey saw them go in, and they're gonna follow. So,
they take the shuttle down. They go do a bit of investigating, and they come across this portion that just ends up being like a bunch of giant stone ribs coming up out of the ground and encircling them like an even more enclosed Stonehenge. And they see a blue light coming from underneath the sand.
Yep. So they go inside, and
well, they don't go inside. The light just kind of comes up, shoots up into the sky, starts talking to them, gives them a bunch of faces, and then settles on one. It was like, this is probably the face you were probably most expecting from God. Basically saying, yeah, no, I'm God. I'm God. How'd you get through?
It's as dumb as it sounds.
It is kind of dumb. It's like, oh, you made it through. How'd you get through? Cybok's like, we brought a starcraft.
We brought a spaceship.
We brought a starcraft. Oh, do you think I could bum a ride?
And Kirk has the
like Cybok is just about to agree to do this, and then Kirk's like,
"Excuse me, 1 minute.
Why do you need a spaceship?
What does God need with a spaceship? You doubt me?" He zaps Kirk and throws him back, and he's like, and everybody is all like, "Wait, what? Oh no!"
And it's
a slow realization that
Spock comes to Kirk's defense and reiterates the question. He gets shocked. McCoy is like questioning what's all happening. And
McCoy basically said, "I don't believe in a God that hurts others."
So yeah, it's basically a slow dawning that this isn't fucking God.
This is some alien that wants to get out.
Some alien that was trapped on this planet and wants out.
Who knows how fucking powerful this thing is?
It's like, I am convinced at this point in the movie that they didn't find God, they found Satan.
So then Cybok is like, I don't understand. And then the creature, we're gonna call it the creature, not God, because it's not fucking God.
Yeah.
It takes on the image of Cybok.
Basically,
mocking him.
Basically, it's revealing that Cybok's whole journey to find God was in vain because the creature they found certainly wasn't God, but he was completely willing to claim to be.
Yeah.
And Kirk basically has to spell it out for Cybok. It's like, this isn't God. If this were God, he wouldn't need us to escape. He'd be able to do it himself because he's fucking God. This clearly isn't God.
So Cybok decides,
Oh, after this revelation, Cyborg is like, what the hell have I done? What have I done?
So he decides to sacrifice himself.
And just plunges into the blueness and fights himself, allowing Kirk and the others to get to the shuttle and escape.
Yeah.
Except that doesn't quite work.
It destroys the shuttle.
The creature attacks the shuttle and destroys it. Kirk and the others are safe, and they get a call from Scotty, who tells them, "Hey, I got the teleporters back up, but I can only bring up 2." And so Kirk orders Scotty to take Spock and McCoy up.
So a little bit earlier, the bird of prey found the Enterprise. It crossed through and it found the Enterprise, and it's getting ready to target it. But I think we forgot to mention one little thing. Oh yeah, the Klingon ambassador is on board of the Enterprise.
Yep, he is. So Spock and McCoy get teleported up, leaving Kirk left on the planet to face off against this thing.
And this thing has its way with Kirk, but Kirk's like running for his life.
Yeah. It's like, get back here, Kirk. All I want to do is kill you a little. Come on, Kirk.
It's probably the only fun this thing has ever had in years. But then the bird of prey appears.
Yeah. It appears looming on the horizon.
And Kirk's just like, fuck.
And then the bird of prey fires and hits God. Air quotes.
And he goes down. Well, I like to think he didn't go down, but he was stunned. And he was stunned. God got taken down by a plasma rifle.
And then Kirk gets beamed up to the bird of prey, and he's taken up to the bridge by a couple Klingon officers. And then the Klingon ambassador is there. It's like, men, let this man go. He's a guest.
There's somebody who would like to have a word with you, and it's Claude, the villain of the movie. And he's just like, I'm sorry. And Klingons don't apologize, okay?
Like, I'm sorry. I acted without my planet's authorization, without my government's authorization. And so the Klingons...
Here's the thing. Klingons don't apologize. To them... So, very quickly, the Klingon Empire is the equivalent of pre-imperial Japan, okay? Or imperial era Japan, where everything's about honor. It's all about honor, and if you do anything wrong, you'd rather kill yourself than admit that you shamed people. So for a Klingon to apologize to a Federation officer, yeah, that's the same. That's about as dishonorable as you can get.
And then Kirk is introduced to the bird of prey's new captain, Spock.
Spock is the one that fired the shot.
Yeah.
What a marksman. He could have been a helmsman in his day.
And then they all go back to the Enterprise and leave, and they have a party in Captain Quarters.
Yep. And it's a grand old time, and
I guess the Terran ambassador and the Romulan ambassador got a bit
yeah,
during the whole thing, so they are clearly a couple. Not that it really matters, because they were minor characters.
So then...
And, in fact, the only reason I even had any caring for the Terran ambassador at all was because I recognized him from a couple other films. He was the psychiatrist in Mouth of Madness, and before that he was the scientist character from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze.
Yeah. So, this would have been a fine way to end the movie. This would have been a great way to end the movie, but it doesn't end there. We cut back to Yosemite National Park at night. And around a campfire, Spock, Kirk, and Bones. And Spock starts singing, "Row, row, row your boat." And everybody else joins in. And that's how the movie ends, ladies and gentlemen.
I think that's a good way to end the movie. Because it's a callback to an earlier scene. The characters
It's a brick joke, I get it, but Jesus Christ. Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, everybody.
Good God, what a train wreck of a movie.
I love this movie. It's like I won't say that
I love it, but only because it's so bad it's good.
Like, I had a lot of fun with this movie. I will admit, it's not a good movie, but it is a movie that I found to be a lot of fun. And considering that this guy hyped it up as being one of the worst entries in the entire franchise...
Oh, it's one of the worst entries in the entire franchise.
I mean, you're technically not wrong, but...
I can think about 2 or 3 that are probably worse. And 2 of them happen to be... 2 of them happen to be the next two of the next generation movies.
But the way
Insurrection, I would argue, is worse than Final Frontier. Not because it's worse, objectively worse than Final Frontier, but because unlike Final Frontier, which has the grace of being so bad it's good, Insurrection is just bad. It's not fun.
But for as much as you are kind of hyping this up as being a terrible movie...
Oh, it's terrible. I give it a 5 out of 10, to be honest.
Let me finish my thought.
Go!
Okay. For as much as you hype this up as being one of the worst movies in the franchise, I found it to be pretty enjoyable. Like, I was expecting this to be awful. Like, you made it seem like it was a completely irredeemable movie that was just boring and terrible. And honestly, I would compare watching this movie, given your hype, to removing a Band-Aid. Like, you think it's going to be bad, but then you get it over with, and it's like, that wasn't that bad.
2 things. 1, it's irredeemably bad. Not for quality's sake. For quality's sake, it's subjective. That's whatever. It's irredeemably bad for, 1, being the last movie Gene Roddenberry worked on when he was alive.
Okay.
So, that's pretty bad in and of itself. Number 2, this is the last movie that Harve Bennett, as a producer, ever did. This movie did so poorly... The movie also did terribly at the box office, too. It bombed. Fucking bombed. Nobody...
Which, I will admit, is kind of to be expected, given...
Nobody wanted to see this movie. Especially after 2, 3, and 4 were so good. Okay? Nobody wanted to see 5. Because people didn't like it. But it did so bad at the box office that Harve Bennett was fired as his job as a producer, and he's never produced another film since. This was the death of his career. Those are a few of the reasons why I think Star Trek V is an irredeemably bad movie. Not for quality's sake, but for everything that happened behind the scenes with it.
Okay, that's a fair point. But I will honestly admit, while this wasn't a great movie, I did find the movie, the plot and all this, to actually be fairly charming. It did kind of feel weird going into it, knowing that they were going to search for God, and then an hour goes through the movie, and then they reveal that that's the plot.
I want to say that a bit of a slightly off topic, but I think it was good that we watched this movie.
Espion, why do you keep wanting to fall over? What is wrong with you?
See, I was about to get serious, and then Espion decided no.
It's like, no.
I was gonna...
It evolves from happiness, so maybe that's why.
Yeah. I was gonna say, it was kind of good that we watched this movie when we did. Considering a lot of circumstances that has happened in our personal lives recently.
This is true.
So, it's kind of apt that we watched a movie of this nature with such a, albeit gauche, but strong philosophical,
Inclination?
Inclination, yeah. Theosophical inclination, that is.
Yeah, I don't think we should go into too much detail about it.
No, I'm not going to go into detail.
But just know that we recently, in our family, experienced a tragedy, and...
Yeah.
And this movie kind of helped, I guess.
Kind of helped us cope. As most movies do. Movies are a coping mechanism for a lot of things, and that's why people continue to watch movies. It's an escape. That said, 5 out of 10. I'm not sure what rating you would give it.
I'd give it a 7 out of 10.
So where would you rank this in the movies now? I know it's not the lowest.
You're right. I would definitely watch this movie again before ever even considering rewatching the first movie. And that one is, in my mind, the worst of the movies that we've seen so far.
Which is fair enough. So, like, Star Trek 1...
Espion?
Everybody died. Okay, I'm leaving Espion here. We'll fix it. We'll fix it after.
We'll fix it in post.
We'll do it live. First movie, long, interesting, but boring. Second movie, a great philosophical movie that has to do with death, aging, and revenge as what happens when you become too obsessed with the revenge. Movie number 3 is a popcorn flick. We've talked about that enough. Movie 4 is a straight comedy. This one's kind of a...
Theological.
This one's
very theological.
Very theological movie. So where would you rank your movie list?
Okay, I would say Wrath of Khan would be at the top.
Yep.
Followed by...
Voyage Home?
Yes, that one. Then...
Search for Spock?
Yes. Then Final Frontier, and then finally the motion picture.
Fair enough, yeah. Personally, Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock. I love number 3, and I love Christopher Lloyd. I can't get enough of him.
He is great in that.
Voyage Home. Kruger, Commander Kruger.
Ah.
Yes. Voyage Home, motion picture, Final Frontier. I would watch the first movie over Final Frontier.
That's how opinions work.
Yeah. Mostly because the ideas in the first movie are much more interesting than Final Frontiers. I think we've probably said about enough. Enough about this movie. Yeah.
I'm satisfied with
next movie we get.
We're going back to the origin.
Yeah, well, we're kind of going back to the origin.
What do you mean?
Yeah, that's what you mean.
Yeah, next movie we're doing the third Gundam origin movie.
Yeah, we're doing the third Gundam origin movie.
What do you think I meant?
I was going to say, hold on. I was going to say, next movie we get the return of Nicholas Meyer in what many consider the second, if not the best, Star Trek original series movie of all time.
But that's after we do Gundam.
That's after we do Gundam.
That's the next Star Trek movie we're doing.
Yes.
And if I recall correctly, that will be the last one we cover for the time being.
Yep,
right?
that'll be the last one we cover for the time being.
We'll move on to something else after that one, but...
No spoilers.
But, until next time, this has been ProtoBalls Talk. I'm ProtoMet.
This is my Recycle Balls. Have a
See
good
ya.
one.